This video is being sponsored by Simply Safe. More on that in a minute. Listen guys, this is it. It's over. I know it's taking way too long. We're gonna do it. We're gonna put the last few parts on this bike. I'm so tired. I can't breathe. I don't like breathing anyway. It doesn't matter. Nobody really cares. All you're really here for is to watch me turn the wrench on this thing. Last video we installed the dual sport kit, and it's good and all, except there's just one thing, is this light does nothing. It's just a dummy light. With this aftermarket UFO fender, this back tail light, it's just a cover. There's actually nothing in this thing. Online I see there's a lot of people that are really ticked off about that, but I think UFO did it on purpose. I think they knew that a lot of people would be taking these bikes and converting them to street legal. And the factory light back here is a small AC one beam light. And we need a brake running light that runs on DC. And that whole housing is gonna be different. You wanna put the factory stuff back in, it's just drill a small hole. If you wanna change something else, well, drill other holes. Let me show you what we're gonna do. I browsed around the interwebs and I came up with this solution right here. This is a small little bulb housing thing, and this is a small brake light LED bulb that'll go in here. I know there's room for this whole thing to fit in here. Drill some small holes here and we'll run the wires down, and we don't want this just rattling around here, so I have a really cool solution on how we're gonna keep it still, and it's this. Some stuff called Subaru, I don't know. I've used this before doing GoPro mounts. They call it moldable glue. Then we'll tap into the Baja Designs brake light kit. In fact, you'll see here in a little bit, I actually already added some little leads in the last video. I just didn't tell y'all about that just for doing this. Just want to make sure so we can get the cover on it. I think it's going to be important to be able to come in here and actually replace this bulb. This stuff really is like almost a silly putty kind of material. This is how I do them for GoPro mounts. I just kind of glob of it like this and then sort of force my material down into it. Make like a little snake of it here, and I'll work a ring of it around. I tell you, this is probably overkill. From what I can tell too, there's no pressure to like work really fast with this stuff. It seems to take like a good 24 hours to dry. I'm packing a little bit of black down in the hole where the lights come up. Wanted to show you though why I had it here. This is just like a little bank battery thing I have that I put on a GoPro mount using that same material. Incredibly hard. I mean, it's like some kind of rubberized plastic. Pretty confident this will be just fine. So here's where I modified Baja Designs kit one. Each one of these leads that comes up here, I split into two, add some little bullet connectors. I don't know which way they go, so I'm just gonna kind of half stick them in. Oh, that's promising. Hey, good first guess. All right, so now I need to start working on the dash, and I already opened this up because I had to get that water sensor out, and I just don't know how to put these things back together. You've already figured that out by now. Oh, there's the dash part. This is a tunable dash that I can set for whatever wheel size I want. Water temperature, outside air temperature, RPMs, and it'll tell you when it's your birthday. They actually have their own power. You don't even have to like have DC power on your bike if you don't mind just changing out this watch battery in the back every once in a while. But since our bike does have 12 volt power, I will feed into one of these that does 12 volt power. Give these mounts with this thing, clip onto the handlebars. The problem with these things is they just shake like crazy and they suck, so we're not gonna use that. I got a little metal bracket that's rubber mounted and it bolts on like that. It's just great. I really like it. I think what I actually love to do is use the metal bracket in here to mount it directly too. There's actually already a small hole right here. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about putting it here. I have to add one more small hole right here. Then I would move the key over to the other side. And I also have to groove this metal here just slightly because this really is meant to sit kind of like this. These are just ever so slightly in the way. This wire right here comes up from the sensor we put on when we did the radiators. This was the cable they actually gave you to connect to the fan. Now the end of it used to have on some battery terminal ends, but I've changed them to these little bullet connectors, and I've also tapped into that the power to the dash, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna feed this up to that switch power we had. This will plug into it, feed the dash, and feed the fan. Oh, yep, there we go. So we know the dash is getting power now. Feel pretty safe in presuming that that's getting power too, but we'll test that in a minute. So for the tachometer to work, we need to put a sensor on the spark plug wire itself. We wrap this signal wire around 5 times. 1 wrap, 2 wraps, 3 wraps, 4 wraps, and 5. The final thing we have to set up is the speedometer cable. The way this works is we have a bag of magnets here that can attach to the rotor. I'll show you that in a second. And then we have this pickup right here we have to mount on the fork. Every time that magnet goes by, it's gonna pick that up here on the signal. It's gonna go to the dash, and the dash will have some calculations. Super simple system to set up, and what's great is you can change your sprockets, do stuff like that, and it's not gonna affect speedometer because that's right off the front wheel. There is from Warp 9 a retainer with a magnet you can get that goes in here and stays in here, but I do know we're going to replace this rotor with that flame rotor. I'm not sure when it's going to get here. So the other bit in here is a couple different size bolts. I'm going to see if I can use one of these bolts instead. That way, if we go to the flame rotor, which doesn't have this magnet hole in it, the sensor will be in the right spot regardless. Looking at the bolts that came out of here, it looks like this one's the closest match. It's slightly recessed on here, but it's very minimal, so I should still be able to get a tool on here. Rotated the magnet to get it as close to the fork as I can get it. The bolt's pretty close to the fork right here, so I think this is a good spot. The magnet will go right past the sensor, and that should trip it. A little alcohol, clean the area. The wire for this sensor, it's kind of tricky because it's on the suspension which moves up and down, but the good thing is we have our brake line right here and we can kind of just tag along with it up until we get to the top. The good thing too is they really give you some stiff hose on here, just like the brake line itself, a very stiff section through here. Not too bad. Just use the brake line as a guide. Right up the brake line. From somewhere about here up to this spot here, I'm going to try not to have a zip tie because this whole section will be moving through this tube. I'm going to put one on the other side up here where I know the suspension is, yeah, it's fully uncompressed right now. But if you have one in this section, it has to try to pass through this hole quickly when the suspension's compressing and rebounding. That can make some problems. Now we just need to do some more zip ties and kind of clean this up again. We had it pretty cleaned up. I knew this was going to happen once we added all the dash wiring in here. Handful of zip ties later, it actually looks pretty decent again. I realize it can look a little bit hectic, but if you pull the headlight off of almost any factory bike, you're going to see just about the same amount of wiring on it. The biggest thing is that when you've got to make sure when you turn the bars back and forth, nothing's being pinched. That's something you want to check a couple times before you call that good. Here's the best part, all sunk in. You can't see any of it, right? If you can't see it, it doesn't happen. Turning the bars here, making sure everything looks happy. Dash looks done. By the way, when you turn the key off, the dash will stay on because it has that little battery inside of it. As you can see, there's an absolute ton more wires. What I'd like to do is put a little bit of old wire loom around, just this bit particular right here where it goes past the head. Wiring loom like this really isn't about like trying to keep water out of this or anything. In fact, if anything, I'd always say make the seam of it down when you get done. It's more just about protecting things. And if you think about all these wires sliding back and forth through all this stuff right here, my pookie I put on the back here is completely dry now. It's hard as a freaking rock. You can still pop the bulb out. Putting these screws back into plastic, and they always have kind of like a sheet metal looking screw. What you do is you stick these in, spin them backwards until it feel it fall into the old threads, and then screw it in. That way you're not recutting new threads every time. The electronics are done, all of them. But now for a word from our sponsor, Simply Safe. What is Simply Safe? Well, it's a home security system, you big dingus. It says it right here. Why am I even telling you? Professional monitoring 24 hours a day for like 50 cents a day. They'll call the police if they see a break-in. There's no contracts or anything, month-to-month deal. It's incredibly easy to install. But you haven't even installed any of this stuff. It's all in the box. Well, you big dingus, these boxes are empty. I installed it all like a week ago. I actually put one of the entry sensors on my garage door. I even put a camera in my garage, and it means that anytime I can pull my phone out, I can see a live feed from my garage. What are you doing? Get away from my bikes. I can also see from this camera whether I shut the garage. You know you leave the house, you know you're not leaving the garage open. Why would you leave the garage open? But that doesn't matter. 5 minutes down the road when you're like, Did we shut the garage? Anyway, get back to the sensors. They're incredibly easy to install. They even have these little stickers on the back. You can just stick them up if you want, but they also have it where you can do screws instead. Motion sensors, glass break sensors. There's also a panic button. I'm not telling you where I put my panic button. That's for me to know. They have a handful of other just good ones to protect your house. A water sensor, threw that in the laundry room. Smoke detector. And yes, I mounted it next to my old smoke detector because that old smoke detector don't call you a big dingus and tell you your house is on fire. And while it's connected to my Wi-Fi, it also has its own cell signal too. So it means if the entire house power goes down or the Wi-Fi, something happens, or someone's like actively trying to mess something up so they can get into the house, everything still works. You don't have to worry about that. And with Father's Day coming up, this would make a great gift. I know personally I've got a lot of cool toys and stuff in my garage. I mean, in all seriousness, you know, I've got a family, I've got a kid and another one that's like 3 weeks away from being here. So like a home security system is a smart thing to do. If you want to learn more about Simply Safe, go to simplysafe.com/Jake and check them out. The link will be down in the description. Thanks Simply Safe, and back to the video. It's like 11, 12 o'clock at night right now. There's a few quick things I can do before I go to bed. It's flipping huge. It's a big bike though. It is aluminum, so it doesn't really weigh much anything. It's simple, strong, it will work. I love too, it came with no instructions, no real paperwork, just a little Ziploc bag on here with 2 longer bolts, 2 shorter bolts, 4 washers. Looking at the skid plate, one thing I would be slightly concerned of, and this is any skid plate, is you gotta look where the frame is gonna run alongside this. And a lot of times it's not a bad idea to put some kind of foam or rubber right in that area. These skid plates tend to be a big amplifier of all your engine noise and bounce it back at you. So I had a crazy idea. I'm gonna try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I've never done this like this. I've done similar things, but I've got some sort of foam rubber here. And I'm gonna line this whole thing with that. Man, this is like really sticky. It was definitely a pain trying to cut all these little holes out. It looks a little better from this side. So let's grab our hardware with no directions, and I guess I assume we'll figure it out. Check it out, I picked up some random blind spot mirrors on the interwebs, super cheap. I just put it right here on the handguard. I don't know if this is actually gonna show me anything, but it will keep me legal. This is gonna be like the most legit Supermoto I've ever owned. Airbox cover, right? I want to modify it. Now this gets a little bit controversial with some people modifying airboxes. There's a lot of very strong opinions online, and some of that's for good reason. A lot of the factory airboxes are really well engineered, and you trying to modify them to get more airflow will make problems. Particularly I found with sport bikes, that whole random air system they have, all that. Usually best just to leave that the way it was built. It works well. But on certain bikes, it does make a lot of sense to do some sort of airbox mod. You particularly see in the dual sports and dirt bikes. Just having the most airflow it could possibly get seems like it would be best as long as you tune properly for it. But it's complicated. Let's not get into all the reasons why, but there is good reasons to be a little precautious about doing air filter airbox mods. I think the best thing to do is to look your bike up, kind of try to research a little bit and see what you find professionals say about it. The XR, the side cover holds the air filter in place. This is a bike people definitely modified. The Baja guys, all of them had these things opened up a little bit more. You'll find the professionals say, yes, open this airbox a little bit. All the air has to kind of come in right now, kind of then roll over the top here and go in. So what a lot of people end up doing is putting holes right in this area. There's a couple different options. One thing out there is a screen kit that a lot of people put on these things. What I went with was these little uni air vent thingies. I remember back in the day, people always had these on their Supermotos and stuff, and you don't really see it as much now, but since this was a bike I always wanted back in the day when I first got into Supermoto, if I'm going to do an air filter mod, I want to do this one. Also, I do think there's some good practicality to doing these things. They're uni, which is what our filter is anyway, so it has filter material inside of these. And so when you put a hole in the actual outside here, you do open yourself up for like a lot of dust and other junk to get in there, or when it rains. But if you have vents that are little filters themselves that you oil, then it should be okay. I think even in the rain, it would not be a problem, because if these things got wet and you already had oil on them, if anything, it would just sort of clog up, and this thing, it'd be easier for it to just pull air in through the main port there. So you probably get a little moisture on here, but these things, an oiled air filter like this is meant to take a little bit of moisture and water hitting it anyway. According to the directions, you basically have to cut a 1-inch hole in your plastics everywhere you want to put these things, or in your air filter, air box, wherever you're mounting them, which is a little scary because that's the outside here. So I think I'll put some blue tape on this when I do it, and then we're gonna arrange these things. So like I said, you see there's like some little things here that press against the filter, and I don't really want to cut those out, so I'm using just a drill bit kind of as a straight edge. Keep changing my idea on the exact pattern I want to, so I'm about to have to just commit to one, you know, and be like, all right, that's what it is. All right. I'm just gonna check it from 3 sides. 3 little dots, and they're kind of triangulating themselves. Since I've never used a drill bit like this on plastic, I've actually just grabbed the old garbage fender. I've put a little dot right here. I want to see what it'll be like trying to put a hole right there. So I think if I take the sharp end of the bit here, press just slightly, and then we'll start nice and slow. It's kind of rough on the outside, but let me see something. I gotta shove one of these in there. Yeah, look at that. Doesn't look rough at all. What have I done? Ah! So I'm gonna put the gas tank on, fire up the bike, and make sure that the fan, radiator stuff is working. You gotta get this shot every time because everyone wants to see this. On this startup, we're looking for a couple things. We're seeing if the tachometer works, if the thermostat reads up here, if the fan kicks on, all electronics, once again, we'll kind of check them over. Yep. Oh yeah, you gotta put the key on. God dang it. I keep forgetting that. So he has a key to ignition now. Oh my gosh, I'm silly. The water temperature right here, which is before the thermostat, and down here, this is after the thermostat. I did it. Look at that. But because I'm just a crazy man, I actually went and bought one more part for it that needs to go on, and that is a new rear sprocket. No, front sprocket. Yes, a rear sprocket, the smallest rear sprocket ever. I have been out on it a number of times. Right now I'm running like a 15, like 40. It's too tall.
Puppies bye. I told these puppies bye.
That was sweet of you. Well, that's basically all the parts, guys. Decided to spare y'all the video of me cleaning the chain. I should have never even rode it like that. You know when they get that overly crazy amount of grease they put on when they're new? I don't know how they do that, these chains. The last thing you saw of me finishing up the back of the bike, that was 2 weeks ago. And we have a total now of right at 50 miles. 50 miles dead on. First 25 miles was just doing some shakedown stuff, trying to make sure the tires were broken, carb was tuned right. I did have to tweak the carb a little bit, and I started filming some of it, but honestly, I don't feel like I'm an expert enough to really show off myself tuning the electron. It's a little different than a normal carb, but I just followed their own instructional videos. Now I will say it's a lot easier to tune than a normal carburetor. I mean, really, really simple. I feel like I've got it dialed in now, so the bike starts fast, incredibly responsive, it's really good. Obviously I'm gonna do like a big breakdown after I do a reveal video, kind of like all the parts we've put on it, what I think about them, kind of look at cost breakdowns. I know a lot of people have been asking for that stuff, but it will come. We're definitely gonna do a video on that. I can tell you the bike is really, really sweet. Oh yeah, another thing we changed on it, we did get the MotoMaster flame rotor. Big thanks to you guys who bought Big Red Pig merch, supported the project too. I'm really digging how it's actually looking with no graphics kit on it. I was really sure I was gonna get some kind of graphics kit. Now I'm like, I can't decide, so I need y'all to help me. Comment below what you think I should do as far as graphics are concerned, if I should do some, if I shouldn't. What do you guys think I should do after this one? I mean, I'm keeping this bike. We're definitely gonna be numerous videos on this thing. I am enjoying doing this project stuff. It's, you know, it's something I didn't do at first and like kind of worked my way into it with the FZ, we did the ZX6R, now we've done this one. It's like, it's what I went to school for, it's what I'm actually about, and I guess kind of got motivated seeing everybody else doing them, and I was like, I think I can do it too. I think I know what I'm doing a little better too. I didn't say that. Yeah, I've been enjoying this. This is fun for me. I definitely want to get out to do some riding videos though. There's been a lack of those. I'm gonna go give this thing a bath and throw some gear on and go do a rip around on it. Trying to get good at wheelies on it. I'm a little rusty right now, so thanks for watching. Yep,